Kal Halal, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and salutations to the Akim pushing his word sincerely and all truth, peace, and blessings to the rest of the elect, the 1/3, the men, women, and children who make up the large multitude, the remnant who have been chosen before the foundation to receive the truth and mercy through Yahweh's sacrifice. Right, this lesson is going to be entitled Homeostasis, and it's a biological term, and it pretty much goes back to keeping balance within organisms, So we're just going to read a simple definition, and get into it. All right, it says homeostasis, from the Greek words for same and steady, refers to any process that living things use to actively maintain fairly stable conditions necessary for survival. Right? It says the term was coined in 1930 by the physician Walter Cannon. His book, The Wisdom of the Body, describes how the human body maintains steady levels of temperature and other vital conditions such as the water, salt, sugar, protein, fat, calcium, and oxygen contents of the blood. Right? So there are many different checks and balances, in your body, systems that control, the levels, the different levels in your body. For example, if we look at osmoregulation, which is pretty much the regulation of the water content of your body, at any given point, right, your body has certain systems and checks and balances in place to make sure that at any given point you don't have too much or too little water. If you have too much water, then your body produces more urine, and clear urine at that to try to get it out of your body. If you're in a hot enough climate, you sweat, you produce more saliva, things like that. If you don't have enough water, right, then you produce less urine that's more concentrated. You sweat less, you produce less saliva, different little things like that, and then there are a bunch of other ones as well, for temperature regulation. If you're too hot, then your pores open up, the blood vessels close to the surface of your skin, they dilate so that more heat can dissipate from your body, different things like that. So all these different things make sure that you don't tip either to one extreme or the other, but that you're always centered and balanced. How does that apply to this truth? There's a scripture that we're gonna get, that you can't be over much righteous, you can't be over much wicked. Brothers have brought out videos, in the past and even recently, emphasizing that brothers should have hobbies. And when I say hobbies, I'm not wicked hobbies. Whether it's a sport, or something else like that, watching, cartoons or whatever it is, playing chess, cooking, whatever it is, but you should have some form of hobby, so you balance that out with doing the work, with your carnal job, with your family and all these different things. You balance it out, and balance doesn't necessarily mean 50-50, right? Balance doesn't necessarily mean 50% you're in the spirit, 50% you're on your hobbies. No, balance can also mean 70-30, right? So it can mean that, balance can mean that 70% of the time or 80% of the time, you're in the spirit, you're reading, you're watching videos, you're doing lessons, you're meditating, you're praying, and then the other 20%, you're in your hobbies or whatever it is, but there is balance, because excess in anything, creates destruction, right? So let's just get into the precepts. This is Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 11. It says, "A just weight and balances are the Lord's. All the weights of the bag are his work." Right? So the Heavenly Father delights in a just weight and balance, right? In everything that you do in your life, you have to apply balance. Brothers always, we always say this, that whenever we judge situations, you have to apply balance. Some situations require, for example, you to be harsh, while other situations require you to be softer. It all depends on the situation, and it all depends on balance. You can't lean more towards being an aggressive person, but then you never show softness or you never show tenderness, right? Similarly, you can lean only to the tender, and you never have the ability to show harshness when it's required, right? You can't, if you're constantly, in the spirit, you know, you burn yourself out through the spirit. But if you're constantly in the flesh, you lose the spirit, right? So there's balance, a just weight and a balance, or is the light, right? This is Ecclesiastes 3:1. To everything there's a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill, and a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, right? And this is one of the fundamental things that Christians even forget or just don't know. The Lord is balanced. The Lord is not just love, right? That would be imbalance, right? Because the scripture says here that there is a time to if we read down, it says there's a time to love and a time to hate. So you can't just be good, but then there's nothing in you that is that is bad. Simply put, because sometimes meeting out certain judgments may come off as evil, bad, because that's what evil means. It just means bad, All right, this is 1 Corinthians 9 verse 25. And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible. Now, the word temperate, if you look it up, it goes into mild or moderate, right? So it means that you're not over to one extreme or the other. You're balanced in the middle. You're not excessive towards anything. Just like in your body, if you eat too much sugar, then you get diabetes over time, right? If you consume too much salt, high blood pressure. But the other side is also true. If you don't get enough sugar, right, what happens? You're lacking energy, you're lethargic if you don't have enough salt, right? And certain conditions in your body are not met, right? Because sodium is actually needed, to for your what you call those again now? Your nerve cells to work. You have a pump called a sodium potassium pump that's necessary, for your nerves to work, right? So sodium is necessary, potassium is necessary. But you also have things that are called vitamin poisonings or nutrient poisoning, because you consume too much of the nutrients, and it becomes toxic at a particular level, right? So this it's the same here, Brothers can overmuch study. You study too much to the point where you destroy yourself, right? You have a scripture, I think, that says too much study is a weary to the flesh, because sometimes brothers don't know how to balance that out. You have to be able to balance that out, right? So the word, looked up the word temperate.
Strong's G 1467, ekratuamai.
So it means to be self-controlled, continent, to exhibit self-government, conduct oneself temperately, right? In a figure drawn from athletes who, in preparing themselves for games, abstain from unwholesome food, wine, sexual indulgence. So that is their balance. When they are preparing for a game, they abstain from those things, but they don't do it, all the time. There are certain times when they would indulge in wine and sex, but then to get themselves into that optimal fighting condition, they would abstain, So it's all, again, balance, right? This is Ecclesiasticus. Let me double check what chapter it is. Chapter 33, right? And this is verse 29. It says, "Be not excessive towards any, and without discretion do nothing." So don't be excessive in anything at all, yo. Don't be excessive in anger, right? Don't be excessive in just mercy, because you have times when you have to execute judgment, right? If you're only merciful all the time, then right judgment will never proceed, right? The scripture said, just wait, is the Lord's delight. You can't be always arrogant. You can't be always merciful, right? That's the truth. That's just right. That's just it right there, right? It says, let's just move on to another precept. This is Ecclesiastes 7 verse 16. Be not righteous over much, neither make thyself over wise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself? So that's one part of the extreme. You're being excessive toward that part. Let's look at David, for example, with his men, when they went to the priests and they were hungered, right? They could have said, hey, the shewbread is not for us to eat, and just die of hunger, right? But they weren't over much righteous. They said, you know what, give us it to eat. We've at least not been with women these past 3 days. Give us to eat. If they were over much righteous, they would say, you know what, the shewbread is only for the priests. We can't eat that, and what? They would die of hunger, right? You die of hunger. That's being over much righteous. So he found that balance. He found that balance. There was another example in the New Testament, where Yahushua I was speaking about a condition where somebody did good on the Sabbath. Like, for example, if you have a sheep and it fell into a ditch, would you not go rescue it on the Sabbath? Being over much righteous would be you saying, you know what, it's the Sabbath, I'm not going to rescue that sheep, and the sheep stays in there and die, and you lose that asset. But applying balance would be you saying, you know what, let me take it out, right? Because it's necessary, right? But then the flip side says, be not over much wicked, neither be thou foolish. Why shouldest thou die before thy time, right? So there's a balance in all things, right? In how we walk in this truth. You can't always be on one side and never the other. There's a balance. It's a balancing act, right? Never too much to one side, never too much to the other side. We're going to wrap here with I believe it's Ecclesiasticus 37, right? We're going to start from verse 27. My son, prove thy soul in thy life, and see what is evil for it, and give not that unto it, right? Yeah, but as you age and you mature in this truth, right, you should know the things that are not profitable unto you. You should know the things that make you stumble. You should know your vices, your weaknesses, and you avoid them to the best of your ability, right? So it says, prove thy soul, meaning know yourself, and see what is evil for it. Know your vices, know your weaknesses, know your shortcomings, and give not that unto it, right? If you know you can't manage liquor, you can't manage alcohol, leave it alone. You can't manage women, leave it alone. Or if you do it, don't multiply women unto you. There are certain things that you can't manage, just leave it alone, right? It says, for all things are not profitable for all men, neither hath every soul pleasure in everything. Some brothers, they can manage the liquor. They can drink a lot of liquor, a lot of alcohol, a lot of wine, a lot of yayan, and it doesn't do anything to them, and they can still keep their cool, right? But you have other brothers, you take a glass or two, and they are talking a bunch of shit, acting the fool. It says, be not unsatiable in any dainty thing, nor too greedy upon meats. Unsatiable means you're unsatisfiable, right? Don't be like that. Don't overconsume in anything at all, right? This is specifically talking about food, because it says, for excess of meats bringeth sickness, and surfeiting would turn to choler. By surfeiting have many perished, but he that taketh heed prolongeth his life. And this is not talking about just food. In anything at all, don't be excessive, right? Because excess in a good thing can become bad. Excess of vitamins can be bad. Excess in anything is bad, yo. Different fruits and vegetables are good, but if you eat too much of it, it becomes toxic. So don't be excessive towards anything, but remember homeostasis, remember balance. not too much to one side, not too much to the other. The body regulates the water content, the blood content, the sodium content, the temperature of the body, all these different things to make sure that everything is in a nice, stable balance. That's what you do too, right? You stay in the spirit, you study, you read, you pray, you meditate upon the scripture. Because being in the spirit doesn't mean that you're always watching video, you're always reading, you're always, doing a lesson. It can mean that you're meditating constantly on the Lord, and you're making decisions through the spirit. But there are times when you need a break, like for example, I play video games, smart mobile games. I have a game on my phone that, I play every now and then. I listen to music, I watch movies. But then you don't be excessive towards that. You don't spend a whole day watching movies, a whole day playing video games, a whole day listening to music. You don't balance it out with anything at all, right? But brothers can tell you, if you spend the entire day just watching and listening to videos, you feel worn out some of the times, if you don't balance that out. All right, so that's pretty much what I wanted to bring out. I hope this lesson was edifying, through the spirit. Till next time, shalom.